Today we're going to talk about Polaroid film and long exposures. Now I'm currently working with the i2 Polaroid camera, the brand new one, so that's the one that I'm testing with. And I thought I would do a series of tests to look at how the camera handles long exposures. Exposures that are 5, 10, 15 seconds long. Now, in most other analog materials, color negative, black and white material, long exposures like that are going to suffer from what's called reciprocity failure. Not all films, but a lot of films suffer from this, and it requires additional exposure to compensate for the very low light level that you're photographing in order to form a proper exposure. And additionally, most manufacturers release reciprocity correction charts for their film. Polaroid does not. So I reached out to Polaroid, some friends I have there, and I said, hey, is there any published information on reciprocity correction with the Polaroid 600 speed film? And the answer I got back was interesting. They said, no, we're not going to publish the information because every batch of Polaroid film is basically being custom crafted, and it'll be different in the next batch. Maybe not a lot different, but a little different. This just speaks to how Polaroid is still trying to make the materials better and better and better. It's frustrating, but at the same time, it turns out that the current batches of film don't suffer that much from reciprocity failure down to say 15 seconds. So I did some test shots that I'm showing you right now, and these were both 10 and 15 second long exposures here in my studio, and they turned out absolutely fantastic. The exposures are perfect, easy for me to scan. They're not too bright, they're not too dark, and I'm really pleased. And this was using the in-camera meter on the i2. I did a lot of shooting out on the Cape where the exposures were, 10 seconds, 8 seconds, and once again, they were all consistently well exposed. But I did do some shots that were very long exposures, like several minutes long. And in those cases, I found that you needed to double or even triple your exposure in order to get enough information on the piece of Polaroid. Now, a wish that I have from Polaroid, and I think this would be really great, because if you're working with a Polaroid camera, you're only able to shoot Polaroid film in the Polaroid camera. So when Polaroid finally comes out with their reciprocity factors, and they finally come out with like, this is the best batch of film, they could very easily, in a firmware upgrade, add that information in to the camera itself. Now think how great this would be. You'd be out shooting, and the exposure that the camera is going to give you is the exposure that's already factoring in the reciprocity failure for that particular film. That would really be great. But for right now, just to know, out to 10, 15 seconds, if you're using an i2, I would bet that 9 times out of 10, the exposure is going to be fine in low light. If you're going really long, you're going to have to experiment because there is no published information. And I would probably say double or triple your time, especially if you're doing like some long landscape or some night street photography where the exposures are multiple minutes. Thank you very much for listening. Can't wait to hear your thoughts. Now go shoot some film.